Hello, hello. It is actually day 277 of my 365-day raw suspending disbelief journey. But I am going to be recording for day 269 all the way through to 277. This is for January 16th through the 24th of 2025. Um, and there are many reasons why it has been several days since I have recorded. And not necessarily even in a bad way, just it has been a lot, and um there's been some shifts going on. So I know leaving off on the 15th, day 268, I was really talking a lot about this clarity that was coming through about being more present with my kids and taking more time for my self-care and all of that. And I will say, as determined as I was and am and will continue to be, it is not easy to just let go of that and suspend disbelief and just trust that it will be fine, kind of thing. So as soon as, and this is, this happened at the beginning when I first started suspending disbelief, and it has happened several times throughout this, more than 2/3 of a year now, that I've been doing this. And that is that when I really set my beliefs like that and I really get firm in it, like, this is what I want to have happen, and get really energetically aligned with it, all of the things come up to be cleared so that I can get into alignment. So it's no shock to me that I had a rough week, that things went sideways in some ways. Everything from, like, my exes reverting. So, like, my, I've put up these strong boundaries in the last, I don't even know how long now, that really helped me to disconnect my energy from theirs so that I wasn't picking up on their negativity or on the struggles that they're having in life, or, I wasn't picking up any of that energy and holding it for myself, because I'm always trying to take care of other people. And all of a sudden, like, that had created a space where they weren't necessarily leaning on me anymore for their drama. And, I'm not saying that unkindly. It was just that, I mean, they are my exes for a reason, and that energy needed to be disconnected. And um it had been a struggle for a long time to disconnect that, but I had finally managed it. So they had stopped reaching out to me for every little thing, and stopped relying on me to solve their problems, and stopped, all of that. And so so I made this energetic decision. I got really into alignment with it. And so, of course, anything that was even a little bit out of alignment still in my life had to come back up. So, one ex called with, like, "Oh, I got scammed on Facebook Marketplace." And it was like, "Oh, why are you calling me? What does that have to do with me?" Like, this is, and that might sound like cold and heartless and whatever, but when you understand the extremity of how much I was being, um, I don't even want to say forced, because when we don't have a strong boundary and we're allowing it, right? So, in a sense, I was allowing myself to be taken advantage of in that way, where I was, um, just being relied on for everything, to solve every problem for everybody. And it was like this thing that just has nothing to do with me, nothing, right? And it really blew my mind for a little bit, until I realized, like, a few days later, this is what was happening, right? That um the last dregs of it were being sort of pulled up to be cleared out. And, I had an incident with the other ex as well, where a whole bunch of drama came up, and then my kids got sick, or mainly Jace, my son. He got a really bad cough, had to be put on antibiotics, and all of this stuff. And um, a lot of, a few sleepless nights because of the coughing, and um, just all around, like, everybody seems to be more tired. For the last week or so, everybody's been more tired, and I think I'm probably still catching up a little bit. And, that just made me think of like something my mom used to say, and I can't remember where she got it, but basically, you never can catch up on the sleep that you lose, right? Like, it's not something that you can make up. You can just try to get yourself sort of back into um, being rested. So it feels like I'm still trying to get back into being rested from that 2 weeks where I had the crystals hanging in my window and they were like energizing me during my sleep, so I couldn't get my rest. So it was a combination of that and, all the activities that we were doing. And we had some really nasty weather here. So the roads were horrible, and um, doing a lot of that commuting back and forth for these activities during this really awful weather. And that actually really slowed things down. Like, you know, traffic was crawling and things like that. So just everything took longer than normal. And it felt like some of the problematic behaviors that the kids had before that we've sort of mostly worked through were really flaring up this week. And in all areas, even my son had a couple of little minor things, but a couple of little things at school that, we haven't been having the problems at school for a while. And, and it was just sort of all of this stuff. And then as well, the teachers, not all the teachers, but some of the special needs programming and the educational assistants and the admin staff at our schools and all of that, they are all on strike right now. And I can't remember if I mentioned that in the last few days that I did record during, but it's now when I'm recording this, it has been 2 weeks that they've been off, that they've been striking. And my youngest, Casey, is at home with me. She is completely off just because her preschool pre-K program that she's in is a very special needs focused program. So it helps to prepare these kids for going into kindergarten. So anyways, so she's been home. So the 2.5 hours that I have to work in a day have been out the window normally, all of that stuff. So I've really been trying to lean into those new realizations of I need to give myself more self-care. I need to pour more into my kids. And, in times where she's not going to school, she's not getting that interaction with the other kids, she's not getting that interaction with other adults, she's not getting out of the house. Like, what can I do to fill up that part of her cup? So there's been a lot more needing to interact with her, and not in a I'm complaining about that way, but just in that there's been just a lot more, it feels like, to sort of spread out and fill every minute. And it's been a little harder to keep up on the house. It's been a little more, like, it's been uh things flaring up with business that are like, oh, I was supposed to do that forever ago and I need to get that done. And so there's like the pressure and the urgency and the it needs to be done now, or it should have been done then, and all of this. And of course that stuff is going to come up because I said that I was going to trust and suspend disbelief that I could do everything that I need to get done in less hours, pour into my own cup more, pour into my children's cups more, maintain my house better than I have been, all of this stuff. So of course, right, that was exactly what could be expected from my life coming into more alignment with this new level that I'm aiming for. So anyway, that's a bit rambly, and I'm sorry it's a little bit hard to recap. Let me think here. I think it's about 8 days. So I mean, aside from all of that, there was nothing, massively awful. We're on our second sleepover night in this same 8-day period. So we had one kid here last weekend. This weekend, one kid is gone, but we have another kid here. And it's just sort of like this rotating door, right? This like nonstop. There's always a sleepover going on. There's always extra things happening. I had things that didn't necessarily come to light in this last 8 days, but also that sort of I started dealing with in these last 8 days. So the things that were getting shoved aside that, and I know we all do this where you get these things that need to be dealt with, but they're not urgent in the moment when you realize, or they're not as urgent as other things. And so they get put to the back burner. And then because they're out of sight, out of mind, you forget about them, you leave them for longer. And what we don't realize is that that thing, whatever it is that we've sort of pushed to the back burner, is still hanging over our heads. It's still weighing on our conscience. It is still sitting on our shoulders, feeling like an anvil weighing us down. And all of those things were coming to light this week. So it was like, um, yes, like I have to say I think I succeeded pretty well most of the days, not all of them, in really being super present for Casey during the day. Trying to really minimize anything that I had to do for work so that I could really spend the time with her, be present with her, play with her, do all of those things. And still just sort of meet the bare minimum needs for my business. But it was a lot harder with Jace and Cadence. They came home from school and there were a lot of bad moods this week and like ups and downs and just all of this stuff. So it was a little bit harder in the evenings. And then of course we're rushing around going to events. So it was harder with them. And then, like I said, with the tiredness, it was a struggle to get up and do my self-care routine in the mornings and, just maintain that and have that silent time to myself and really pour into myself like I was wanting to. And then, even if I was to follow what I had been thinking about, like, get up, do my self-care routine. But then if that's not enough, once I drop the kids off at school, pouring more into myself, well, that's really hard to do when Casey's home. So, I wasn't getting up early enough and then I wasn't doing, so the self-care part sort of really fell off, um, a lot, not completely, but a lot. And, that doesn't make it easier by the end of the day to be really pouring into my kids and to be maintaining my house all throughout and maintaining the balance. And it makes it a lot easier to feel pressured into pouring more time into work and business things and, allowing the shoulds and the have tos and all of that to take over. And several times I could see it and I couldn't seem to release it, and then other times I caught myself and stopped myself, and, so it was up and down. It was not completely unsuccessful, and it was not completely as successful as I would have liked it to be. There were also a lot of financial things that came all of a sudden flying at me, and, um, of course, that felt extra triggering because it's harder to make extra money when I'm not having any working hours because Casey's home all day, every day, and because evenings are too busy, and because, all of the things. So, um, while I still have some income that's recurring and it's still, it's not that I'm making nothing. It was like my income dipped a bit and I had these big bills all of a sudden thrown in my face that I had put to the side, put the pin in, and forgotten about. And so, they became more urgent and and like fires to be put out kind of thing. And yeah, so that ends up sort of triggering those same feelings of like, am I going to make it at the end of the month? And I'm sure that I will. Um, but again, it's like the universe testing you. And I don't think that the universe tests us to try to make things harder for us. I think it's just really a way for us to decide how decided we are, to really get behind our own beliefs, right? So if we are like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to manifest that and I'm going to behave in this new way and I'm going to suspend disbelief, and the universe throws these tests out. And again, they're not really tests. Again, like I think I may have talked about this on here before, but what I actually really look at it as is just alignment. It is our lives falling into alignment, and that is things falling away, things that have not been dealt with coming up to be dealt with, all of that. That is getting into alignment with our highest and best timeline. That is getting into alignment with the manifestations that we're trying to call in. That is getting into energetic alignment, physical alignment, all of it, cleaning up our lives so that we are ready to actually experience that thing that we're calling in. So I appreciate all of it and I see it and I'm like, oh, this is so hard in the moment, but I'm also really glad that it's coming up so it can be dealt with, because I know that I'm not going to fully embody and enjoy that manifestation that I'm trying to call in of being so overflowingly self-cared and so pouring so much into my kids that they're just feeling that taken care of, and taking the time for my house so that I can just really feel filled up by the environment that I'm in, because that's important for me and it affects my mood in a huge way, and my mindset and my um mental state, right? So all of these things are super important. And it was like, oh, here's a reason why not. Here's a reason why not. There's a reason why not. Oh, what about this one? And it just kept coming this week. For this last week, it's felt like that. Um, and sitting down tonight after putting the three stooges to bed, my son's friend is here for a sleepover, and Casey has always decided that he's also her best friend. And so she latches onto them and follows them around, and it's really sweet, and they're pretty good with her most of the time. But after putting them down to bed, it was like, holy crap, this week. And I just sort of sat and started reflecting on it. And I was like, damn, I have not done a suspending disbelief episode in too long, and I don't even know how long. And so I went back to look, and I was like, oh, I went over the week mark, like, dang it. But at the same time, it was like, again, sitting to reflect on it, I went, well, yeah. So, it made a lot of sense. And again, all through this week, I was noticing it. Um, there was 3 days in there as well. And I almost forgot this, like my computer completely crapped out on me. It would not connect to the internet. It was, um, getting really, like, there was all these glitches going on, and I finally ended up having to, like, thankfully I have a big external hard drive and I can take all the stuff off the computer and, whatever, and not lose all of my work. So I was able to do that. But I had to wipe my hard drive, and then I had to reinstall Windows, and it was giving me all kinds of problems with that. It did not want to update, and I had to reinstall the network drivers, and like all of these kinds of things that are very, very techy and not really in my wheelhouse, right? But I can figure them out. Like they're okay. I can get there, but they're not fun. They're not easy. And my semi crappy internet makes them like 10 times harder, because as things are trying to download so that they can update, it will suddenly cut out and then the download has to start again. So it took a solid 3 days for me to get it all sorted out. And then of course, even after that, it was like, now I'm resetting all the settings that I have changed over, a few years now using this laptop. So I'm like, everything that I do is just a little bit harder and more delayed, or a little bit more confused, just because all of my settings are reset back to, factory settings. So, um, and none of this is intended as a complaint. It was just very much an awareness of like, okay, these are all of the areas where things were not in alignment with what I was calling in. And, I realized my computer was so full all of the time that it was really a lot slower. So ever since I did this, um, things have been working faster. My internet's not perfect still, but it has been working faster. And I'm like, okay, so my processor really just does not like having the memory be full. And that's something that came up for me to clear out so that I can be functioning, doing my work faster. And again, it was specific. It was exactly what I said. I said less hours and making the same amount or more. And how am I supposed to work less hours if my computer is slowly trudging along like a snail and just making things so much harder for me? And yet I'm not in a position to reinvest in a new computer altogether. So it was like so directly related that needed to be cleaned up and reset so that I could be functioning faster during the hours that I do have available to work, so that I can get more done and still be making the same amount of money in less time, same amount or more. And I'm going to keep on adding that, or more, or more, or more, right? More can come. Um, so, so yeah, so it just was like every single one of those things came up and just showed me exactly what needed to be highlighted so that I would be able to get into alignment with what I needed. And I still feel like I'm a little bit in the shifting and aligning part here as I'm recording this. I don't think that that's quite finished. Some of the things are still in process. But for the most part, I feel like it sort of has covered all the areas of my life in this last week and dredged up some things to be dealt with so that I can move on to my next level. So it's really exciting. So it's really exciting in the sense that there is no, I'm not even going to say that. I feel like that is that is tempting fate. I'm not going to say that, but it feels like, I've covered all the bases. All of these things have come up. They're all still sort of, not all, but some of them are still in the process of being sorted out. And I feel like things can only get better, and I can feel the difference in my alignment with what I was calling in, and feeling more hopeful about it, and feeling more confident that it's possible, and all of that. So, um, yeah, that is what I have for you guys today. And I will hopefully talk to you all tomorrow.